Hey, what's going on? I'm Mike Fu, and today I want to talk about unions. Get started. All right. I got OCD, so I kind of look at unions a little differently. I am a very pro-union person, but I get obsessed with the idea because if you have a picture frame that's slightly off, I'm the person that wants to fix it. And if you have a system that's kind of really, really imbalanced, I kind of obsess over looking for elegant solutions to this problem. And I really do believe unions are a wonderful solution to a lot of the issues we have in the US because it's rooted deeply with the things that are wrong, right? Unions kind of right a lot of the issues that we have. So let me present that. So you have small businesses and big businesses. If you're if you're an employee of a small business, you have a lot of leverage in negotiating because if you only have a business of 5 people, well, if you decide to go to another job because you're not getting paid enough, the owner will look at you and be like, well, you know what? If you're bringing that much value and if you leave, you're going to take away that productivity, and there's only 5 people. That's significant. There's a mutual level of dependency and accountability because the owner expects the workers to do their job because they're being paid, and the workers expect the owner to run the business and make the right decisions because their livelihoods depend on it. When you scale up to a big business or a giant corporation with thousands of employees, your single worker now loses all the leverage. But remember, the corporation is beholden now, if it's publicly traded, to the shareholders, right? The corporations are going to do their thing and try to make money at any cost, right? That's kind of the argument because it's capitalism. That's fine, because then what you need to accept also is that as a worker, as an employee in the United States, I should try to get paid as much as I can, right? And if I need to do that collectively, I should. Now, here's the problem. Big companies have been lobbying against anything that's pro-worker. There's a lot of tactics that they use to scare people from joining unions and organizing. And it's been working because the last 40, 50 years, unions have just eroded to just a point where they're not as powerful as they should be. The dynamic is not balanced, right? Corporations and employers tend to have much, much more power compared to unions in other advanced nations. And your ability to collectively bargain is the only way you can really bargain if you are in a large company. And a lot of people could be like, well, you should have studied harder, you should have done this if you want to make more money. But here's the thing. If you don't work for this company, well, if you're Walmart, Amazon, and all that stuff right now, there's a big problem because you're so big that you've eliminated most of the competition. The majority of the jobs out there right now are from giant corporate entities. And with that said, they all have the same system of like having all the leverage in negotiating with your working terms. And so there really is no choice right now. There is no leverage. And the only way you can get leverage and have a CBA, collective bargaining agreement, collective through a union. It's interesting because I find unions to be a very elegant solution, especially under the political spectrum of people who want small government and governments not to overregulate. Like libertarians really don't like it when governments overstep their bounds, right? And so if you think about, let's say, a seatbelt. Seatbelt is a wonderful government regulation because it's good for cars to be required to be manufactured with seatbelts. It's good for buildings to have fire exits, right? That's good regulation. But let's say you're an AI company, right? How much should government regulate AI so that it doesn't supplant workers? And when we talk about government, we're talking about a small group of people making decisions for, the whole country. Overregulation there could be a real problem because you don't want a small group of people just to dictate what a company does when that could affect our position in being world leaders in technology and advancement, right? Like if AI is held back too much and another country gets ahead of that, that's not beneficial for us. So the workers would naturally, that's gonna, companies are just gonna keep growing. We don't want government just to stop it with some arbitrary decision. Unions would just naturally bring about a friction that would just slow it down enough so that it allows its workers and the society to kind of adapt to it. It's not about whether it's the perfect solution, it's more about that you have a balanced solution, right? At the end of the day, it's just something that would mitigate a lot of our issues right now with, minimum wage and all these things. Now, going to democratic representations, where it's kind of a new idea I have that I think is very interesting. Kind of dawned on me a few days ago, and it's probably not an original idea, but we always say it's our civic duty to go vote. You can go protest, and all that stuff is really, really important. The thing about modern day politics, the framework, is that you'll have politicians that you vote for that might actually not have your interests because big corporations have sort of funded their campaigns and they're beholden now to support policies that might be anti-worker, right? Anti-middle class, pro-corporatist, stuff like that. And it got me thinking, the middle class, the majority of the middle class is the working class. And so in this democratic society, it's always about the majority, right? Making sure the majority is represented. And, everybody needs representation, but we make sure that the majority is heard. Now, with that said, right now, the majority is kind of being split because, social politics, identity politics, real important issues are being presented, but they're being used in a very divisive way. And so you could be somebody that, works the same job as somebody else and you both need a raise, but your vote splits in ways that don't benefit you and your bottom line in terms of being able to pay for your rent or your mortgage, or even have a chance to own a house, feed yourself, have healthcare. If you look at a union draws its strength from its membership. They run parliamentary process. They're a mini government, basically. It's not like the president says, we're going to do this and that's it. No, like if the leadership presents certain things, the membership has to vote for it and approve it or reject it. That's a democratic process. When I started participating in my unions, in their actions, in their activities, and, gave my opinion, I was exercising my duties as a citizen in a democratic society, because collectively I was able to work with other people to achieve something. And it's crazy because the middle class is the majority of the United States, and the middle class is mostly made up of the working class. The working class could be better represented through the union. And here's the elegant part. The framework of, typical politics, like I said, is very divisive. But the framework of politics in a union is that, you might be someone who identifies a certain way and the other person identifies as like, a conservative or liberal, whatever, right? But at the end of the day, under the framework of a union, we're talking about policies that are going to give us security for our work. It's going to give us fair wages. It's going to benefit us with healthcare, North American Free Trade Agreement, right? Like if unions were big enough and comparable to the big companies, we would have never outsourced all those jobs, and we would still have manufacturing jobs here today if that were the case. So the fact that unions just naturally have the best interests of the average worker, and the average worker again makes up the middle working class, which is the bulk of the country, it actually focuses the agenda of better work conditions and all that for whether you're a left-leaning or a right-leaning person. And it's actually more unifying for our middle working class. So I've been trying to do more things with my union just because I truly believe that it's enabled me to exercise a lot of my civic duties, right? Like I see, things happening in town hall. It's through the connection with my union. It's through, they have resources and support. I've learned a lot through it. And I just really wish that more people had a union to be part of, because it really empowers the worker, and it empowers me not just as a teacher, but it empowered me as a citizen. So again, just want to share that. It's definitely eye-opening, and I hope with the state of politics, the way it is. Go out and protest, go out and, make sure that you hold your politicians accountable, but do realize that, your participation in a union or helping to grow unions or form unions, it really is a vector to exercise your civic duties. Best of luck. If you have any thoughts, please share. All right, take care. Good luck. Bye bye.